Welcome back to the PvP Live Studios. You're watching HPL. I'm Tanner Grayson, joined by Nathan, that's Admirable some more, and we're about to get into our second match between Jab and Greensheep. And guys, buckle in. It's going to be a big one with a lot of fireworks.
Yeah, that's sort of what we expect when we take a look at these guys' histories and exactly how they play. They've both been very aggressive, making sure they put the pressure on their opponents and keep it there. They want these games to be over, and they want it to be over on their terms. So game one right now is getting underway. Greensheep versus Jab.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Greensheep does come out as super aggressive as we think he's going to and doesn't throw a curveball, because if he does, Jab is going to have to revert into a control role. Whoa. And it looks like we might have a mirror match here in game one.
Yeah, Greensheep really mixing things up here. This may just be a nod to how powerful of a strategy this is right now, too. I mean, something I think is going to work very well against Greensheep is Grim Patron Warrior. Stuff like Cruel Taskmaster, Whirlwinds, Armor Smiths, they pretty much have everything early on to stop you in your tracks. So the fact that he has played Face Warrior also in this one, so Jab could be thinking about that very early on. But once he sees there's nothing turn one, I think he's going to feel a little bit better about this.
Yeah, and I like this queue up from Jab. This is something we talked about a little before the match. I thought he was going to queue up decks that had Armor Smith in them.
Yeah, Armor Smith's such a good card versus what Greensheep's going to do, and you see that very early on. But Greensheep, he's willing to go toe-to-toe with the strategy. He says, you know what? You're going to use Armor Smiths. I'm going to use Armor Smiths maybe as well. We haven't seen any in his deck yet, but Deathbite, one of the best ways to check that. And when he has Grim Patron and Inner Rage in this hand also, he's got what I would consider a very large advantage at this point.
Yeah, he's got a very large advantage, but Jab has an advantage on the board right now with Armor Smith and Acolyte of Pain, two very, very key minions in this matchup.
Yeah, so it's going to be Acolyte of Pain and Inner Rage. If Jab does not... Oh, he's not going to Inner Rage, actually. He's going to hang on to that for his Grim Patrons. He just wants to get maximum effect out of those. He says, you know what? If you got a weapon, you have a weapon. Or if you want to draw some cards, here you go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Jab does this turn. He has a couple options. He can slam this Acolyte of Pain, denying Greensheep one of the extra draws out of it by slamming it and then attacking it with his own Acolyte of Pain, drawing a couple extra cards, and then maybe Battle Raging his as well this turn. It just matters how much Jab wants to commit to taking out this Acolyte of Pain and how deep he wants to get into his own deck.
Yeah, a lot of different ways to handle this board. I mean, he could also start to get aggressive here very early on. You know, he didn't see Greensheep coin a Deathbite. He may think that he doesn't have one. I think Slam is a totally reasonable play. Just get what you can get done and hopefully you can pick up the options that maybe you need yourself.
Yeah, Emperor Thorson, a very good one. As we said, it's super important for these decks. Yeah, he's just going to get an Armor Smith in play, it looks like here, get a lot more life total off this. He'll probably run his Acolyte of Pain into Greensheep to get another draw here and deny Greensheep a draw of his own.
Yeah, so that's exactly what he's going to do. And two Armor Smiths. Something that you would typically expect to just be the disaster for Greensheep, but again, he's changed his strategy completely and rolling into this one with a very different game plan. So love the queue up from actually both of these players in that regard. Jab obviously trying to target him early on, and Greensheep throwing curveball.
Yeah, I love the curveball from Greensheep, and I love the queue up from Jab, just like you said. This is a great strategy against what Greensheep brings to the table, and you know, it's gonna be interesting to see which one blinks first in this matchup and reverts back to what they're known for, and you might see Jab queue up this deck multiple times here in this match.
Yeah, I think it's very likely possible, and Jab a little bit short on action here. Battle Rage is only for one right now. He hasn't been damaged himself quite yet. And no real action going into this turn. I mean, if he runs out his Frothing Berserker into this, there's a possibility it just gets picked off by this Deathbite. But at the same time, that will give Jab an extra card off of his Acolyte of Pain. So just going to continue to save that in his hand. Favoring looking for burst damage towards more later stages of the game, a big Warsong Commander combos. And Greensheep, I mean, this is one of the most powerful turns that you can possibly have is Grim Patrons with Inner Rages.
Yeah, and he even has a coin and a Whirlwind if he wants to go super deep this turn and just make an entirely full board.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get 6 minions just off of this, so I mean, how deep does he really need to go considering that? And this really takes a lot of the potential away for Jab to be able to Whirlwind a board position like this. He can take out the 2 5/1 Grim Patrons, but the other 4 now are going to try to duplicate themselves. So it will clear out some of them because it'll try to fill up the board before they actually die. He won't get as many effects off of it. But, how does he actually stifle this board pressure moving forward? I mean, Greensheep's got 22 power worth of minions on the board on turn 5.
Yeah, this deck is just so powerful when it gets going and it's unchecked, and you're seeing the full power of it here. Jab's going to take the full amount of time here. And as you said, I think it involves Whirlwind, Execute, and attacking this turn, getting to clear up this board. But I don't know if he can clear up enough to not still be pretty far behind next turn.
Yeah, Whirlwind's actually, it'll clear up effectively one of these Grim Patrons. Again, it's going to deal damage to all of them simultaneously. It's going to try to do the summons afterwards, so he's going to save his Whirlwind. I mean, I think he has to save his Whirlwind to look for a big burst combo towards the end of the game. That's exactly what Emperor Thorson's going to be aimed at, is trying to find a turn where he can play Frothing Berserker, draw a bunch of cards, and then deal a massive amount of damage. And Greensheep here, I mean, this is so much damage moving forward. Does he ever actually? I mean, is he anywhere close to lethal? Is he anywhere close to lethal this turn? If he played Warsong Commander and Frothing Berserker with a Whirlwind, that's only 7, 8 extra damage at this point. So 8 plus what's on board. Yeah, not quite enough to get the job done. So just gonna continue to build his board presence here. But I mean, again, it's just how does Jab deal with this? He doesn't have something like Brawl in his hand.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for Jab to come back from this spot. We've seen this in mirror matches of this kind before. Sometimes the first person to get out and make a huge board of Grim Patrons isn't the person that actually wins, because the other person can clean it up and then do the same themselves. But we're actually going to see what looks like Greensheep just spiral out of control from here and win this game.
Yeah, actually chooses to armor up too instead of using the Fiery War Axe. Very different playstyle than what we've seen from him in the past, you know, being concerned with his own health.
Yeah, he's definitely concerned a little bit with his own health here, because you know, there is the chance that Jab does something like takes out his entire board and develops a giant one of his own, and you don't want to fall super far behind in life totals and just have a huge burst from a Frothing Berserker turn and a Grim Patron turn where you just take something like 24 out of nowhere when you weren't expecting to.
Yeah, so he's got some Whirlwinds that can actually start to clear this board up, but one of the big problems with that is that he's investing a lot of his potential to reach Greensheep in terms of damage when he uses both of these Whirlwinds. And the other thing that's happening too is he's giving Greensheep a ton of armor in the process. So this is a very, very tough turn from Jab to see exactly how he moves forward and maybe even wins this game.
Yeah, we're going to see him just play a Grom here. I thought this was a possibility this turn. He's just going to Grom and start to pick off minions here, I'm guessing. I'm not sure exactly how he goes from here, but yeah, the executes on these Grim Patrons are going to be a good start, and then he can start picking off individual minions here with Grom. Because you have to respect Grom here. Greensheep needs to do something with taking care of this Gromish on board. He cannot leave a 10 power minion sitting around. Yeah,
I mean, I suspect this turn he's going to go. He just saw 2 executes, so I think he feels a little bit safe from everything that's happening here. But he is a little bit vulnerable from the fact that he's got Armorsmith and Cruel Taskmaster on the board. I mean, unless this is enough for lethal.
Yeah, I think this might be enough for lethal with the Frothing Berserker here in Whirlwind. You have to count this up. It's going to be 1, 2, 3.
So there's going to be the trade. That's going to give him that damage is going over to the Frothing Berserker here too. So not a big sacrifice from him. And at this point, you know, the Whirlwind's going to give him extra damage again on the Frothing Berserker. So this is 6 more right here. So that brings the Frothing Berserker up to 10 power, plus 12 from those Grim Patrons, and he can run the Armorsmith into Grom to get 2 extra damage out of that if he wants to. So that's 12 plus 10. That looks like 24 damage to me, 1 off lethal. But I mean, if this is 1 off lethal, that's still more than enough to really get the job done here. 10, 12, yeah, he's got 24 damage this turn. But, you know, I can't blame him for going for this one. You're going to put your opponent so low and still have a massive threat out. And again, he just saw 2 executes.
Yeah, I think there's a small chance we see one of the Grim Patrons actually finish off Grom here. It just seems like a really safe play, because getting him to 4 versus 7 is, or I mean, sorry, 4 versus 1 is not that big of a difference.
That sequencing too, by the way, Greensheep lost 2 points of damage by using a Grim Patron after he had already attacked with his Frothing Berserker. So missing a couple points, but I don't think it matters too much. Again, Jab just so low on life after this unstoppable string of turns that Greensheep has had, just really no way to climb out of it.
Yeah, and Jab's going to fall down. Jab's going to fall to 0-1 here. Greensheep just coming out super fast in this game, making a massive board and then leaning on one gigantic Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, nothing to do for Jab, and everything has gone Greensheep's way. I mean, that's the power of this stack, is when you put together these combos, massive damage from Frothing Berserker as a result. So,
yeah, we saw quite the combo that turn. I mean, that game, we saw him fill up his board from practically nothing very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he went from nothing to 22 power on the board in a matter of like 2 turns. That is just, like, that's unbelievable, the amount of power that can bring. So sort of a switch up from Greensheep, but sort of still in the same vein. Wants to be getting a lot of pressure on board and then look to jump at you with all that pressure and make sure that you can't get your cards together right, so that way you can't do the same thing to him. I love that he continues to play these aggressive styles. It's one of the best ways to play the game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Jab sticks to his guns here and keeps playing mid-range strategies, might even queue up Grim Patron Warrior again here, because you've gotten a little tiny bit of a curveball here from Greensheep. It's not super hyper-aggressive like we've seen. Most of his decks are face variants, but he went with Grim Patron Warrior here. So it's going to be interesting to see if they both queue up the same decks or change it up here a little bit in the second game.
Yeah, draw is dictating a little bit in this game. Again, Greensheep just had all the tools to put together a dominant board position and then executed that going forward. You can head over to pvplive.net and see for yourself exactly what these guys have done. Grim Patron Warrior been a big talking point here for us here in HPL, but honestly doesn't have one of the best win rates, and part of that is because we've been seeing a lot of mirror matches from that deck as well. So when we get back, guys, game number 2 is going to be getting underway. Greensheep picks up his first win. Jab looking to tie up this series. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.